Okay, Survivor is the final album from 15, released in the year 2000, October of that year, actually. It's 15 songs, and it's like an hour. Dude,
It's
this
long.
album, it is
It's,
so
yeah.
stinking long, dude.
I know you'd love that.
Oh my goodness, I was
That's your
so
favorite
excited.
thing.
I was so pumped. I was like, dude, thank God these
A long
songs are.
record.
Yeah,
6-minute songs.
man, I was so stoked, dude. I literally sat there and
Yeah.
cried into my hands and masturbated.
It's my
Uh,
day.
I know, right? Okay. What's up, guys? So we just partnered up with Dead and Buried Inc. out of LA. So if you have a band or a small business, maybe an event coming up, and you need merch, hit these dudes up. There's a link in the description. If you mention that you got there via the Punk Rock Review, you'll get 10% off of your first order. But it's super high quality screen printing, embroidery. They do shirts, hats, hoodies, skateboards, bags, whatever you want printed, they can handle it, all right? They're also a small business, and they're part of the punk rock community. They're my friends. So this is a partnership that's very important to me. If you need merch, hit these dudes up. Check them out. You won't be disappointed, all right? Back to the video. I'm just going to read this stuff real fast because it's not going to take very long.
Sure.
This is what I wrote down while listening to the album. I was sitting down, listening to it, just kind of chilling. And I wrote, the song Survivor has some incredibly up lyrics. The stories in the song are so incredibly dark. It is super long too. It's kind of hard to get through. And then like 5 minutes later, I wrote, "What is this dude religious?" Because like all the stuff he talks about in his first like half the album, it caught me off guard. Vanessa is a pretty good song with a catchy hook. Landlord, he delivers such a horrible vocals in the first part of the song that I almost turned it off. But the lyrics are so insanely relatable. And I'll put like, are there any good landlords out there? Like I don't know, man. Like I don't know if there are. Punk song, it hits pretty hard, pointing out how silly yet in the same time important and needed that punk rock is. It's certainly not perfect, but I obviously love it quite a bit. And then I would put, geez, dude, absolutely awful singing. Like the tone definitely it's like the tone deaf friend of yours that won't stop singing, and you're like, hey man, you're not doing this very well, and they just insist on singing. That's how I felt like this was, man. And then every song is put together like it's 2 or 3 different songs. You notice that?
He's got a really unique way of putting a song together. But yeah, keep going.
I'm almost done because I want to get to where I can talk some positive. Because right now I just want to get this off my chest, and because I do have positive things to say. I put at some point some of the songs, they feel like they're a Chappelle show or SNL skit. Like they just feel like it's just a skit. Like the songs feel like what's that word? Satirical. They feel like they're making fun of something, but I don't think that they are. It just comes off that way because the singing is so bad. It just, anyways. And then I put prostitute ... Good grief ...
Yeah.
What the fuck ... Like it's just like, bro. And the last thing I put down was Lost Generation. What was that?
That's like
from?
the spoken word.
Yeah, what was that from?
I'm not sure exactly.
Okay. Anyways, so you're from the part of the world where they're from, correct?
I live in the city that I was born in.
That's what I thought. So explain to me the album Lucky. I do think I like quite a bit, but I as a young man, I wasn't a fan of this band, and I'll explain why in a minute. I want to know like what was with this band? Who are they? Where are they from? I picked them solely because there was an anniversary coming up, and it was an opportunity for me to learn something about them.
So 15 was formed from the ashes of Crimpshrine.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Jeff Ott was the vocalist in Crimpshrine. His vocal delivery was very different in that band. It was gruff. So in an effort to save his voice later, in fact, 15's first 2 records, he sings like he did in Crimpshrine.
Those are the ones that I gravitated towards.
The same vocal style. And then eventually later, he completely switched it up to save his vocals. Crimpshrine formed in 1986. Okay. They were a seminal part of the Bay Area, Lookout, East Bay punk kind of scene. They played with Operation Ivy a bunch. In fact, Jeff Ott, the singer of this band, his first band was formed in 1982 with Jesse Michaels of Operation Ivy. Okay. And Aaron Comet Bus, who was the drummer of Crimpshrine.
Yeah. No, didn't he play with
he played with a bunch of bands, but
Is he in Pinhead Gunpowder?
Yeah, he is in Pinhead Gunpowder. So it's a big family tree, everyone's kind of connected. Right.
So sorry, I don't mean to be rude.
It's okay.
Crimpshrine, I was pretty familiar with, and I had thought that this was the same dude. So I just wanted to put that out there. Like I'm not completely ignorant to the band, But I think when I got a hold of their music, because this is their last album. It came out in 2000. When I heard about this band, it was after this album was already out.
Right.
And I just, it's the same old thing, man. I just didn't get a hold of their older material, which it's the popular thing with me, I guess, is that I tend to like bands' older material. Which, go figure.
Okay.
Dog's like, fuck you, man.
15 He's like 15 rules.
Yeah. But I think just I'm stuck liking the older material from a lot of bands, and I just don't discover them that way. And it is what it is, man. I'm not tripping anymore. I don't care.
This band, they have deep history. In fact, like there's been a revolving cast of members in this band. It's rumored that by the time this album came out, that there was 15 members of the band by the end of the band. Like he had like a revolving kind of door of people going in and out between albums and this and that. Actually, Crimpshrine broke up in 1988 while on tour, and members of Screeching Weasel came out to California to finish the tour with Crimpshrine.
Dang.
So there's a connection between Screeching Weasel and Crimpshrine, particularly, and you can even hear in Screeching Weasel's earlier material a lot of influence from the East Bay sound.
Their early materials, I think it's fairly different than their more like steady Ramones core type stuff. They have different parts of their career too.
Right. So like early Screeching Weasel sounds a lot like that East Bay Lookout Records kind of late 80s stuff.
Isn't that weird how that happened?
Yeah, and I love that era of Screeching Weasel, honestly. I think it's great.
I kind of like all of it on it.
I'm a fan.
I mean, Ben Weasel's kind of a douche, but
these older guys do a lot of problematic shit. But and people do, as we can tell by the Gel Zulu fucking thing too. We can talk about that later. But 15. They've kind of gone through different eras. So this band they formed in 1988. 15 after Crimpshrine broke up. So almost immediately after Crimpshrine broke up, they formed. I think they started putting out records in 1989, 1990. And we're just plugging away until 2000 when they finally broke up. Yeah.
Well, so let me explain just kind of like how because it's going to sound like I got nothing but negative stuff to say when I'm going to flip that around in just a minute. Basically, dude, I'm sorry, but the dishes in the background is so distracting.
Here, you know what? Let me just move.
Okay. Okay, so when I was young and I got into or got a hold of, became aware of 15.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Crimpshrine all right, but I was a big Op Ivy fan, of course. But I was more into like Filth and Grimple, that kind of stuff. I was starting to get into Murder City Devils and American Steel. These are the bands that I was listening to when I was shown 15. My friend Mike showed me 15. He's like, hey, you like these bands, you might dig 15.
Right.
And I'll be honest, dude, like the visuals, I've never, like, how you said, like, oh, the Mohawk stuff was never really my jam.
Yeah.
I was like the opposite. I looked at these guys and was like, they look like hippie, smelly, whatever.
They were.
I didn't like, yes. Yeah. And I didn't like the font. I didn't like, there was a lot that I just didn't gravitate towards. Now, so I think when I listened to it, I already had kind of a negative opinion of it, which is stupid, right? But it is what it is. I will say this, specifically talking about this album, because they have a couple of albums that, in retrospect, I do like. And I've had them. I've owned them for a little while at this point. But overall, I wasn't necessarily a big fan of 15. I chose to listen to this because I wanted to see if my taste had changed even more. Because if you've noticed over the last 6, 7, 8 months, I've come around on a lot of stuff, or I've rediscovered stuff, or I've just discovered stuff. And so I was thinking, like, man, I should check this out. Now, there's a fair bit of this that I enjoyed. I really dislike his singing, though. Like when he sings, not when he yells. When he yells or whatever, it's fine. It sounds almost like Suicide Machine. Just it's like nasally. It's like this, like super, like high inflected, like nasally yell, right? Without it being no gravelly voice. But I like that. Okay, his singing though is hard for me to get past. And but the lyrics are so good. They're not even good. I think "good's" is the wrong word because that's so subjective. I think that they're necessary. Yeah. The lyrics are so bleak. They're just so dark and honest.
But there's also a tinge of optimism, though. All of his songs have a quality of like redemption to them too.
Sure.
Like this guy was abused and molested as a kid, and he left home at like 14. So he was on the street of like Oakland, California at 14 years old. He started his first band at 12. So a lot of his lyrics come from his experiences.
Oh, well, that's obvious.
And also like being on the street, and his subject matter quite often deals with like drug abuse, rape,
right,
prostitution, really real heavy subject matter. Not a lot of bands touch that way.
That's true.
So I think the reason why 15 is so lauded as being an important band is because they went there in a lot of ways. And even though their songs are maybe 5 or 6 minutes long, they elaborate on some very important topics that are relatable for a lot of people and that people are afraid to talk about. And because it's just really traumatic and awful shit. So
I agree.
I think they're in that way, they're a very important band.
I will champion their importance, whether I like the music or not.
Sure.
I think that they are important. And I think that ultimately I'll end up with more of their records in my collection solely based on the lyrical content being incredibly important, because it's super clear when you're listening to this that it is coming from personal experience. And if it's not directly his experience, it's somebody that he knew, because he uses names and he says things are just too specific for you to be guessing.
100%.
Unfortunately, I've been in a lot of the similar circumstances that he talks about in this album, or
it's
his
triggering.
Music,
some of this shit, it's triggering. Some of these words, it's like it's hard to listen to for some people.
I was gonna say I don't tend to get triggered like in general, but I can understand why somebody would hear this and have to just turn it off or go into like a deep depression. And I'm like, man, on one hand, I think this music is like, maybe you don't want to have it out there, but it's like, okay, yeah, but that's for some people. But for some people, they need to hear this. So it's one of those things where you just maybe want to put a warning on it, like, hey, if you listen to this, this could really mess your brain up for the day. So make sure you're ready for it.
I think, yeah, that's a good point. But I think that the way that he approaches the subject matter is in a very kind of sensitive way too. I mean, he has songs.
Not really. He's very blunt with his wording. He doesn't. There's not sensitive.
Right. But he approaches it from like an empathetic perspective. It's from like a very like, I understand what this feels like. So
I agree with that.
So you're not alone. Like that's, I think, a big theme in a lot of their music is this whole like, you're not alone thing. Like, I'm here with you, kid. He's talking to like that punk on the street that's been through some shit, or that sex worker that's like getting beat up on by a pimp, or was raped as a kid. And it's, again, I can't even think of a lot of bands that even talk about this kind of stuff, but he also has songs on this album about his kids, babies being born.
Right. Yeah. Hey, just real quick, let's watch how we talk, and let's not use the R word as much as we were going to, because this video will just straight up get turned off.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't even realize that.
Bro, it's pretty ridiculous that adults can't talk about adult things. It's stupid.
Yeah, I just
No. I didn't even think about it until I was just thinking about it all of a sudden, and I was like, oh crap, we got to watch out, because I want people to hear this, man. I want people to hear this, and I think that this band is important to a lot of folks, especially from a certain age, like because they've been around in a long time,
right?
So people like my age and older, they're gonna really relate to this band, and this band was really important to a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
So like, even though I wasn't listening to it a lot, I was around this music a lot, and so that's why I was like, I need to dive back into 15. They've always been kind of like on the cusp of being a band I wanted to like explore more and maybe do a video on or something, because I don't have to like all their music to want to talk about them. I think that's super stupid when people say that to me. Like, I just because I don't like it a whole lot doesn't mean I don't get it or respect 100%. It. And I feel like I do respect this music, because his lyrics are just, it's weird. They tell a story like you would tell a story to your friend. They don't sound like they should work, but they do, because it doesn't sound like he put much thought into them, which is, I would imagine, completely the opposite of what he actually did. I'm sure there's plenty of thought put into these, but the way he says it, like the structure of the sentences is my point. Like, it's like, hey Nitty, what's up, man? How you doing today? And that's a part of his song.
No poetry. It's just
No.
it's conversational.
That's
Yeah,
what
in
it
a lot of
is.
ways.
No poetry. Thank you. I was trying to figure out how to put it into words.
It's
And
extremely conversational.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's a bad thing. I just think it's unique, and it catches me off guard a little bit. But there's
Yeah.
a lot to like about this band. So whether I like his singing or not, irrelevant, man. I think everybody should listen to this at least once.
The thing with 15 is also if the singing, his voice isn't for everybody, and
No,
even for me, sometimes it can be a lot. I'm like, does this song need to be 6 minutes?
no, it
Does this
doesn't. I can tell
does
you
this
that it
song need
doesn't.
to be 5 minutes? But he adds a lot of verses. That's the thing. It's
Yes,
that
and they
he
get
just
redundant.
he just keeps saying things. You know, um, punk rock song. I love that song, even though it's like 3 minutes long. I think he makes really good points in that song,
I
kind of
thought that song was
regarding like what it actually means to be punk. And at the end of the song, he's like, to be in a band, you should stand for certain things. You should influence the next generation to be better people.
I don't know that that's an absolute. You don't have to do that to be in a band,
Sure,
punk bands
that's
specifically. But
that's fair.
I do think it's good to do that. I do think it's good to be mindful, and I do think it's good to like at least at some point in your career, if you're going to be longer than a year or two, that to stand for something, have some kind of something that you champion. You don't have to necessarily get up there and talk about it on stage every single night, but do your part behind the scenes. That matters too. But
Absolutely,
some bands aren't
political that way.
for every 15. We also need a NoFX, if that makes any sense.
But even NoFX stands for stuff.
I know. I knew you were going to say that, but like you get the point though. Like they talk a bunch of shit, they act silly and stuff. Like so
Sure.
for every 15, we need a band like Catbite or Screeching Weasel or fuck, dude, even like MXPX, where it's just it's sometimes you just want to get out of that space. You don't want to be, it's like you can listen to 15 and you can listen to The Unseen and you're like, man, I'm fucking depressed now. Thanks, guys.
I want to agree with you, but I'm kind of hard pressed to, because I feel like a lot of the music that we like and gravitate toward in general, most bands are saying something. They're not just saying nothing, right?
So, I'd never said any of these bands were saying nothing. No, that's not what I was saying at all. Like,
Right,
no, I was not saying that they were saying nothing. I'm saying that what they are saying doesn't have to be the same kind of shit that 15's saying, is my point.
Right.
Not every band has to have this like deep political ideology with this movement that they're attached to. They're going to make this fucking enormous change, because what the change might be for you that's important, it might be Mike Herrera talking about this girl where you're just lonely as fuck and you can't get that might be as much help for your mental health as talking about a prostitute getting beat up by a man or her father or whatever, as for somebody like in my position, right? My point was that 15, like bands like this are necessary, but for every one of these bands, we also need a band that's going to do something else. Was my point. I don't think that every band needs to champion some crazy cause. I don't think every band needs to be political. I personally don't like hearing political songs most of the time, because I just get fucking tired of it, man. All day, every day, I'm looking at this shit now. I'm just sick of it, man. I don't. Tell me a story about a junkie or something, man. Tell me a story about something else, dude. I'm tired of hearing about all this shit. Like landlords, yeah, I know landlords suck, man. I fucking have one, dude. They suck. Like, we're the 1%. They're the 99%. We're the 99%. They're the 1%.
Yeah.
Now, as far as money, but like in numbers, we're just. It's class war. It always has. I get it, man. But like, I don't know, man. If I had to listen to songs that had this content all day, every day, I would stop listening to music.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you don't listen to 15 every day, right? I mean, you listen to it at the right time, or when you want to hear something like that.
So that's
when you want to show someone what they're talking about, right? There's a time and a place for things, and
that's what I'm saying. So like for every band like this, we need something that's a little more lighthearted. But these are necessary. I think people are going to misunderstand what I'm saying. A band like this is absolutely necessary. I'm just saying so are other bands.
Well, one thing I want to bring it to Chicago real quick, and a couple of bands that
Chicago. Only one person in the world is going to know what that meant, and I hope you're watching this, P Nasty.
Chicago. That's how they say it out there too.
Probably.
So the Broadway is heavily influenced by 15. You can hear it actually in the riffs and a lot of their songwriting on that first record, Broken Star.
It's a good album.
They really borrowed a lot.
I mean, I really like the Broadways quite a bit more. Actually, what I meant to say earlier that I forgot to say was that the only thing about 15 that I don't really care for is the singing and then the length of the songs. His like yell vocals are cool. The guitar riffage, great. The production I thought was pretty solid, especially on this album. And everything, and the lyric, like I said, lyrical content's great. So like it's very little. It's just stuff that really affects me a lot. Like the songs being super long, I can hardly get around that. And the vocals, I can't listen to them.
Right. I knew that would be
sometimes.
I knew that would be a thing for you too. It's a quiet for me. I kind of at times I can't listen to a ton of 15. I just can't do it. Like it was challenging for me to sit through this entire record because of how long it was, to be honest with you. And quite frankly, some of the songs are just go on like maybe 2 minutes too long when they could have ended a little bit earlier.
Half of them you talking about? Yeah.
But to their credit, I did enjoy this record. I thought it was good. I thought the intentionality that went behind writing the music was really good.
Yeah.
The subject matter, though heavy, was thought-provoking, and
well, it definitely had me like in a different headspace. Look, I know it may sound like I hated this record. I didn't. I just think it's funny that as soon as I listened to like the first two songs, I was like, oh yeah, I remember what I didn't care for about this band. But I was like, man, but I still like it more now than I used to. That's for sure. I definitely all this Husker Du and Jawbreaker, and I'm just saying like all this stuff that I didn't used to listen to. I've been like immersing myself in it, and it's really kind of opening my ears up to like other stuff. So like if nothing else, I'm glad to listen to Husker Du so that I can get to where I like 15 a little bit more and Jawbreaker a little bit more, because those are bands I didn't care for. I like 15 okay, but I didn't used to like Jawbreaker at all. And I think this band created a pretty important piece of artwork with this, and it definitely has like an interesting like time capsule feeling to it, because it feels like a 2000 album to me.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
The riffs do, the production does, the vocals kind of do, but the storytelling and the stuff that they mention, because they don't ever mention any technology stuff, and that's the thing of now. We don't do that back then. We never talked about technology back then. You don't hear anything about text messaging or social media of any kind or anything like that. It's just real life stuff. And yeah, man, I actually think I would give this album like a solid like 7.8 to an 8.0. Wow. Yeah, it was because like I said, like a subjective grade is probably like hovering around a 5.5, somewhere like average or just above. Mm-hmm. But like objectively, I think it's a really good album, and I think it's really important. And I think that people that are in a bad place hearing this record might help them. Some people it might trigger, but some people it might really help. I think it's therapeutic for me to hear this stuff. Like, you know, I was abused as a child, and hearing this stuff, you know, I don't want anybody else to have ever gone through that stuff, but sometimes it feels good to know I wasn't the only kid that was just terrorized as a child, you know?
Right. No. And he also mentions in the song, it's a big theme on this album is kind of like sewing your heart back together again. And
I mean, even the cover work has like that heart with the stitches and then the needle off to the left-hand side. I thought the cover art was really great. And what's up with Jawbreaker being on the cover? Is that like a jacket or something?
That's like someone's bag. Maybe
okay. I saw that. I was like, what an odd thing to put on the cover of your album.
Yeah. But it's a beautiful record for certain reasons. There's actually a song on the album called Gracie, and it's a really cute, sweet song about a baby. Well, which I think is his baby. And
he talks about people that he loves in this album a couple times. Sorry, go ahead.
He's got a few kids. So
he had one of them real young, didn't he?
One of the songs is about how he had a baby at 15 years old, and which this young woman was born in 1985, so she's approaching 40 years old now. So
that's so crazy.
Yeah, Jeff Ott, he's a nurse now somewhere around here.
His kid is only 2 years younger than me. That's wild. Look, dude, I want to just be real clear about something, man. I support this record existing. I think it needs to be out there. Just because I don't like the vocals on some of it doesn't matter. I'm still going to buy a copy of this. I liked it enough to buy a copy. I feel like people aren't going to hear anything.
I can kind of hear your tune changing a little bit throughout the course of this conversation.
Well, no, because I just wanted to get all the negativity off my chest first, because I didn't want to have to harp on it. I just wanted to be like, okay, this is what I didn't like about it. Let's talk about the other stuff, because it was driving me nuts. Because I listened to it again today. I listened to it twice. And
I knew that the length of the album and his voice were going to be the two things for you that were.
Yeah, so like I can get over that though. Like I don't have to listen to all of it, and I don't have to listen to it all the time. So like, it's not a big deal, but I feel like people are going to only hear the negative. They're just going to tune out all the positive, because I've said a fair amount of positive stuff about this record.
If I can suggest to you really quickly before we end the 15 conversation.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
I'm going to do it anyway.
Fuck.
Check out their early material. Like their
I
first
like-
couple of records in 7
Is Lucky
inches.
an early one?
No, that's
No.
way later. Lucky came
I
out
have
right
that
before
one,
this.
and I like that album a lot.
Like Swain's first bike ride.
I had that at my store.
A Choice of a New Generation. That's when he's still gravelly voice saying, you know, and
Maybe we can do one of those albums too.
It's more akin to Crimpshrine and kind of like the vein of punk. American Steel was really influenced by Crimpshrine. You can kind of hear it in their early stuff.
I love American Steel. You know how funny is it that like a band that is heavily influenced by a band I don't care for a lot could end up being one of my favorites, because it happened with Rancid and The Clash. It happened with American Steel and the Broadways and 15. And I don't understand that, man. And I guess I just like what I like, and people can just get upset by it.
Because, you know, there's these points that connect to each other, and it just kind of, you go down the line, and then eventually you end up somewhere that you like, but you trace it back to an origin, which that's one of my hobbies, is I kind of like to see where bands came from and what made them the way they are. That's how I found out about Husker Du and all the other shit, you know?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I think that as I get older, I like this band a lot more. And when I was younger, I was real stubborn about it. But it is what it is, man. I think it deserves like a pretty high grade, like a good B plus. I think it very much warrants a good. Well, I don't know if a B plus would, but like, you know, a good 7.8 to an 8.0, which I think is a pretty high grade for an album that I don't like, you know, grab and put on all the time. Like I think 8.0 is just Lagwagon albums aren't even in an 8.0, and I enjoy those quite a bit. So.
I don't know like how often I can listen to a record like this. Like,
it's hard. It's a heavy album.
It's just, you know, the subject matter. I don't always want to sit through this kind of a record. So it's a lot to handle.
Nor should you do that all the time. This is therapy, not daily listening. This is a therapeutic album.
That's a good point, actually. So I would probably give this album a 7.5 too. I think that it's a good record.
Yeah. Dude, hey, look, the way I grade records, a 7.5 and up is fantastic, because 5 is average. So if you're halfway between average and perfect, I think you're doing a great job. So that's how I look at things. Okay, 7.5 is like where I start going, okay, it's a good album. Anything above that is like, man, it's real good. Like, you know, even Rancid albums, some of them I don't put them at a 10. You know, it's my favorite band. Yeah. I mean, so I think 15 is as a band that, like, there's a lot of things I love attached to 15. So for that reason, I wanted to learn more about them. I'm glad I'm listening to them. If you have information on this band you want me to know, please leave it in the comments. I'm trying to do things the right way here in this channel and with these videos, and I think I've done a lot. A lot of folks don't like it, and some people don't listen enough to understand what I'm doing, and that's okay too, man. You don't have to. Give me the thumbs down. Tell me I'm a dumbass in the comments. I don't give a shit.
Does it show the thumbs down? I think it just shows the thumbs ups. It doesn't show the thumbs downs.
I don't know. I get to see the thumbs downs.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
I never see thumbs downs. I just see thumbs ups.
No, I get to see them because YouTube wants me to know how much I'm disliked.
Interesting. That's good for the mental health.
Is super weird, man. Super weird. All right.
We can cross 15 off the list for tonight.
Yes, sir. Okay. Give me just 1 second.
Oh, by the way,
yes,
Jeff
sir.
Ott from 15 is actually in a new band, Dollar Store, and they played like last week or something.
No
here.
kidding.
I ran into their drummer at my practice space.
Nice.
And the band has like a saxophone. It's like weird. It's vaguely punk from what I heard. It's like funky, like rock. It's like it's on some weird hippie shit. I don't know.
Why does that make me laugh? It definitely does, though.
I mean, they could be trolling me too, because I found a song of theirs on Bandcamp I was looking for, and it's called "This Is Not Our Song, Don't Buy It." And then I played the track, and it's an instrumental song with like a saxophone and like a
that's so weird.
I don't know if I was being trolled. I don't know if it's an actual song or what. So if you know about Dollar Store, let me know. Because I'm really fucking confused. I don't know what they sound like. There's nothing.
I'm not even confused. I'm happy that exists like that.
It's kind of funny. You know,
it is.
If he actually is